Hey guys, how you doing? I'm Kent Tilley, and today I want to talk to you about something that kind of bothers me quite a bit in this industry, which is, how much money advisors make. And I just believe that it is sort of way too much money because the fee structure has never changed, even though people's sort of incomes and balances in their RSPs and accounts have gone up so dramatically, sort of the same as real estate, where, you know, real estate doubles last year or 2 years ago, and real estate agents are still making the same percentage, doing the same amount of work, but they're making double the income for the same job. And this is basically what happens in this industry. And now that people have way more money, it just becomes like this exponential growth, and you're making like crazy money. And so I'm going to follow it up. We'll put a video out like basically the day after this one, where I'm talking about how I'm trying to change that. We're trying to change that over here so that, I can't make that much money as the business owner. In this case, it will be like the bank, sort of. And the advisors sort of cap out, even though I still want advisors to be well compensated. I think there's a limit to how much people should make for doing this job. It's just my personal opinion. So I'm going to bring up a Power or a Excel spreadsheet that I built, and I'm going to kind of walk you through it and explain kind of how this works. It's not the same everywhere. It's not like this runs in a straight line. It's not like this is perfect, but this will give you a rough example of, how much the bank and then the advisor is making off of just one book of business potentially. All right, so I started at year 5 and I went to year 30 in the career. That's because the first 5 years in this career are absolutely horrendous. They are really hard to make any money. I'm just going to assume that after 5 years in this business, an advisor has $10 million in assets under management. That's what this AUM means. Generally speaking, and I mean, like I said, this isn't a perfect number, but if you have $10 million in assets, you can generally assume that your clients are going to add about 10%. You're going to lose clients, and there's also going to be clients taking money out, but generally you can assume your growth just from your clients is going to be about 10% a year. It's because people are adding money to their RSPs, TFSAs every year. There'll be a pension transfer, an inheritance, whatever it is. These things happen. You can just sort of count on about 10% to be added to your book of business from your book of business. So obviously, if you have a giant book of business, 10% is a lot. And in this case, I'm suggesting that the average advisor adds an additional $2 million in assets under management from new clients over that course of time. Now, I have left out the main thing that grows advisors' businesses, which, is really hard to calculate because generally speaking, the top guys in the office get all of it and the bottom guys get none of it. But if you imagine you worked at a firm with 50 advisors, well, there's going to be a lot of people either retiring or they're not going to make it, but they're going to have a small book of business or whatever. And you're going to be able to either get that piece of business or buy it. So usually when you retire, say you have a $50 million book of business, $10 million is going to go to the top 5 advisors in that firm. And then maybe they'll have to peel off a little bit of theirs to the lower one. So this isn't something that happens at K4 yet because we're not big enough. So this certainly isn't the case for us, but that is the case in most firms, which is one of the hardest parts about me trying to attract new talent, because they're like, well, I'm waiting for Johnny to retire, and then I'm going to get this book of business and buy it for 3 or 5 or 10 years or whatever. So that's how that's working. And then I assumed a rate of return or a growth rate on this portfolio of 4%. And you see, if this just keeps going, you're adding 10% a year plus 2 million, which the 2 million would obviously go up over a 30-year career with inflation and whatever else. But I didn't even do that. And you see, in 25 years, the assets under management go from $10 million to over $305 million in a book of business. When I started at IG, probably the top guy in the office had somewhere around 80. I would suspect, in the 7-8 years that have passed, that his book of business is well over the $200 million mark. And so now I'm saying, okay, just this isn't a high-end brokerage, where a high-end brokerage, their book of business would grow faster, but the bank fee would be probably lower, and maybe the advisor's cut is a little bit lower. But this is pretty regular. Like, this isn't even that weird, even though it looks weird. So they've got the bank total fee of 2%. And 0.6% of that is going to the advisor, give or take. This could be, 0.4 to 0.8, basically. So I'm going to say 0.6 is going to the advisor. The bank is taking the additional 1.4. That's going to management, the office, the fund, all of these other things. But the profit is absolutely astronomical. And you can see in year 5, this advisor's only making $60,000. It's a really tough grind in the first few years of this business, which is really tough. I mean, I think what should happen instead is guys that are making this crazy amount of money should be paying good salaries to new associates and having them learn under them instead of trying to start on their own. I think that's sort of starting to happen. So the bank fee, though, on that book after 5 years is $200,000. The bank is very happy. They're making a lot of money. And we see how it goes down. So just let's go to year 10, for example. Now, you've got a $28 million book. The bank, or, whatever, you're going to get an additional $2.8 million in growth. Plus 4%, plus you're hopefully going to add some new clients of $2 million. At this point in time, now the bank is raking in $567,000 off of one advisor, and that advisor is making $170 and change. Very good income. I would, in my hope or thought, is like, I don't think an advisor should really be able to make that much more than about $300,000. I think that's a very good income for the work that we do, and it should be really hard to do that. But, as you see, it's not extremely difficult to add $2 million in clients per year. I would think most advisors should be able to do that. And so in 15 years, they're making almost $350,000. But then it just starts getting out of this world insane. You get to the end of a 30-year career. If this person has a $200 or $300 million book, which is certainly not unheard of, the bank is charging over $6 million to the clients of this one advisor. So, maybe you have 200 clients, you're charging them $6 million between 200 people, and the advisor's raking in almost $2 million per year. Now, I know some of you may be watching this be like, I need to be a financial advisor. We're also putting out a video talking about the pros and cons of being a financial advisor. One of the ones that they're going to sell you on is that you can make an extremely high amount of income, which is true. This is how it works. But as you can see, it's just like this exponential growth. And, we're not working that much harder here than we are at the bottom. And that's sort of my problem with it is that it's somewhere in here should be the range. I don't think financial advisors should make 2 or 3 times as much as physicians and lawyers and whoever else. I certainly don't think real estate agents should either, but that's the way the money system is working right now. So this is one of the main things that I've thought about for many, many years with K4 and being like, I don't think that that's fair to consumers. I certainly am not that greedy that I want to charge this 2% that I could as basically the bank and earn $6 million a year off of one, advisor that worked for me for 30 years. I just think that's absolutely ridiculous. So if you see a little bit of a problem with this, then you should maybe start asking questions. In the next video, I'm going to talk about how much an average client is going to pay for an advisor over their lifetime. And then I'm going to talk about a wealthy person, relatively wealthy, not, super high net worth or ultra high net worth, and how much they're paying their advisor over time in comparison to what they would pay to K4 and the advisor that worked for K4, just to give you an idea of how much money you can actually save, because at the end of the day, that money is yours. It's back in your pocket. We are not trying to rake you over the coals. We're trying to do a good job for you and tell you completely what we're charging. And if you don't think that it's worth it, then there are certainly other avenues that you can go where you can get rid of almost all of these fees. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again very soon. Cheers.